evening, everyone. Very happy to introduce our lecturer today, Professor Dhammika D.P. Chandrasekara. We've been working together in the National Trust for a long time, and he's in fact the heir apparent to the presidency. He should have taken over this year, but the University of Moratuwa gave him some added responsibility as the Deputy Vice Chancellor. So he asked Professor Nimal and me to help him to carry through this year, and hopefully I think he has promised me that by next year he will be ready to take over the presidency of the National Trust. So in the meantime, he is presenting today a lecture on the distinctive architectural features of Polonnaruwa, and he has a great deal of experience in this area with over 30 years of teaching experience. He has authored and co-authored several books on historic architecture, heritage and housing. With the National Trust, I recall he worked with Professor Nimal de Silva to produce heritage buildings of Sri Lanka, which is one of our best-selling books, publications. He also had a small book out on the fortifications on the Kalani River, which I remember. But for most of us, I think we remember those wonderful calendars that his students produce every year, the line drawings of the Tampita Vihara. And all of this he has put into a book, Architecture of Tampita Vihara. He is the co-author, and this is published in the UK. So I'm really very proud and happy that he's here today to speak on architectural remains of the inner city of Polonnaruwa. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those nice words, Dr. Sarla. Actually, the talk that I am going to make today, the titled Architectural Remains at Polonnaruwa Inner City, is a result of a fairly long period of research done at the University of Moratuwa. Actually, we started this in 1992, and we finished the documentation by about 1996, and we were trying to, we have planned to do a publication out of it, because it had two phases. One is the documentation of the monuments in the inner city, not the whole of Polonnaruwa. Polonnaruwa inner city, I will explain what the inner city is. Then also to do a conservation proposals for the buildings. Altogether there were about 20 buildings. 12 in the Tooth Relic Square, 4 in the Parakramabahu area, 4 in the Nissanka Malla area. And we did this also, and this was financed or funded by the Getty Foundation, USA. What really happened was, I think those who can remember, in 1993 we had the biggest international conference. I think so far we didn't have a conference of that nature. About 1,000 participants, and I think more than 80% of them are foreigners. The ICOMOS International Annual General Meeting at BMICH in 1993. At that time, there was a lot of enthusiasm in preservation of and management of heritage, and Dr. Roland Silva became the president of ICOMOS International, and this was a huge occasion because it was the first time it went out of Europe, and the first president of ICOMOS outside Europe. And Europe, it was Dr. Roland Silva. So in 1992, lots of organizations were coming here to see the arrangements for this, and the representative of the representatives from Getty Foundation were here, and when they went round, this is before the conference, they asked, why don't you make a proposal to do documentation of Polonnaruwa, and Dr. Roland Silva asked Professor Nimal de Silva to do it to university, and we wrote a proposal, and it was accepted, and we got at that time 700,000, which was in today's terms not a big money, but at that time it was a very large amount, and the university did documentation through the undergraduate students. So actually I would like to dedicate this lecture to Professor Nimal de Silva mainly, who passed away about 3 months before. His initiative, his commitment, and the guidance 33 years before for this work, and also for inspiring lots of influencing and inspiring lots of young students to undertake studies, work in heritage related activities. Then also we should need to remember Dr. Roland Silva, the founder president, who I think created this whole enthusiasm in late 80s and 90s on heritage in this country, and through their involvement actually we started this this work of documenting the heritage, tangible heritage in the inner city of Polonnaruwa. Now we'll go to the lecture now. In fact, Polonnaruwa, as you know, is the second oldest capital, if you take the shorter time duration of Sigri out, of the island. And the important thing here is it was the capital for about 212 years, but during Anuradhapura period it was also the seat of rule, or the 3 kings of Anuradhapura period, Aggabodhi in the 8th century, Sena in the 9th century, and Sena the 1st and Sena the 5th in the 10th century used this as the royal seat. So there were developments during Anuradhapura period also as a Kandavurunuwara or a provincial capital, and sometimes as the most the capital itself. Then actually it was first established as the formal capital after the 3 kings of Anuradhapura by the Rajaraja I, the South Indian Chola, who invaded Anuradhapura in the 11th century and made their Polonnaruwa their capital and occupied for 3 decades. There are different arguments about why Polonnaruwa was selected, shift from the Anuradhapura. Some argue it was the change of the seaports from Mannar to Trincomalee, the international trade. Lots of other arguments are also there. Anyway, we know King Vijayabahu in 1055, after defeating the Cholas, established Polonnaruwa as his capital and continued the seat of government till again another Chola invasion in 1215. Now in between we had several rulers, but we have 3 very important rulers, kings, who developed the buildings, city, fortifications, reservoirs in Polonnaruwa. They are the Vijayabahu I, Parakramabahu I, and King Nissanka Malla. The King Parakramabahu made fortifications, a palace complex which we can even see today, some Buddhist monasteries. Then the Nissanka Malla, who didn't rule for more than 10 years, again was responsible for some very interesting works which we are going to see today. He also had a separate palace. He didn't like to occupy the palace of King Parakramabahu. Actually, if you take the city, whole city, it has several segments. It has the inner city, which we call the citadel, consisting of the royal palaces and the Tooth Relic shrines. Now, as you know, the Tooth Relic is an important symbol of the royalty or the of the island, we even, I think, consider the person who holds the control over the Tooth Relic is the legitimate ruler of the country. And then we have the inner city, the royal palaces, the Tooth Relic shrines. In the outer city, basically the Buddhist monasteries. Now if you look at Anuradhapura, this diagram actually I am again borrowing from the presidential speech made by Dr. Roland Silva in 1972, May, at the SLIA, but at that time it was Ceylon Institute of Architects, CIA, in May, about the town planning of Anuradhapura, more than again 50 years ago, where he showed Anuradhapura was developed over a long period of time, like very long period of time, from 500 BC till about 10th century AD, maybe 13 centuries, but he showed that it was developed according to certain principles, where he said first it was the agricultural settlements prior to the introduction of Buddhism, that is what you see here, the 5 tanks, the Tithavawa, Nuvaruwa, Puliyankulam, Vasavakkulam, Abevapi, these tanks, the small village settlements, self-sufficient village settlements. After some time, they want to exchange their goods because some have a surplus of one type of product. So they started to exchange goods to goods barter system, but they found that it was not very convenient. So they established the agora or the central fair in the middle, which later became the city center and the place of the ruler or the traders. So the first stage is the agricultural settlement, the second stage is the city center. After that, the Buddhism was introduced in the 3rd century BC, and we see the 5 big monasteries. The Mahavihara was the first, Dakkina, the southern monastery, Mirisavatiya. On the northern side, we have the Abhayagiriya and the Jetavana. So 5 big monasteries, about 5,000 to 2,000 monks in each monastery. So that was the 3rd stage, and then we have the outermost ring, where the monks living in these big monasteries thought that they were not following what the master, Lord Buddha, asked them to do. They were too luxurious, they were very close to the traders, the rich traders, the royal, the rulers, and they went out and established small monasteries, and they tried to either do meditation or learn the religion. So we have this Papada Viharas, where the specialty was you study religion. Some resemblance to Mahayana tradition also, because in Mahayana tradition you consider Dhamma is more important than the person, Lord Buddha. So, and then also the forest monasteries, where you do only meditation. They were not very luxurious, they had very basic facilities. So we have this outermost ring, and this is the development in Anuradhapura. But later kingdoms like Polonnaruwa, Kotte, Dambadeniya, Yapahuwa, Kandy tried to follow some of the principles. So one of the main, very important principle that is found here is you don't have religious, ritualistic buildings inside the city center, except the Tooth Relic Shrine and some refectories where the monks can come, people can offer meals, but they will go back. So no temples inside the city center. And you have agricultural settlements, you have the small monasteries on the periphery, big monasteries between the agricultural settlements and the inner city, which you will see in Polonnaruwa, not to the same complexity like in Anuradhapura, even in Kandy, in Kotte, which is very close to Colombo, Yapahuwa, Dambadeniya, even Tissamaharam probably you will see some complexity. So when you look at Polonnaruwa, you can see it's a fairly long elongated city where you have the Parakramabahu. This is the area where you will have the inner city. And here you have the southern monastery of the Podgulwera, Alahana Pirivena, the northern monastery, Jetavana of Polonnaruwa, the big monasteries. So you have the agricultural settlements, then you have the small monasteries like Somavati, Dimulagala on the periphery. So today what we are going to discuss is the inner city, where you have the palaces and the Tooth Relic Square, because Polonnaruwa has this unique place called Dalada Maluwa or the Tooth Relic Square, because you have at least 4 Tooth Relic shrines in this location. Because it was developed during Anuradhapura period, we also have some ritualistic buildings which is not found in Anuradhapura. Probably some of them originated during Anuradhapura period and they were continued, or some were added during Polonnaruwa period. So you have some ritualistic buildings also in the inner city. Now, as I explained, we have 3 main areas in the inner city: the Tooth Relic Square or the Dalada Maluwa, King Parakramabahu Palace Complex area. So you have the palace and some ancillary buildings. King Nissanka Malla Palace Complex area. Now, if you take the Tooth Relic Shrine, sorry. Tooth Relic Square or the quadrangle, you have 12 buildings. You have 2 entrances. It's a square with an extension to the southern part of it. So we have Watadage, the image house, Tuparama, Bodhikara, Bodhisattva image houses, Nissanka Mandapa, the image house of reclining Buddha image house, 2 main Tooth Relic shrines, Atadage and Hatadage, a Poege or a Uposatagara, Galpotha's biggest rock cut inscription, peculiar type of stupa, Satmahal Prasada, and a Siva Devala at the lower level. Now, what I am going to show you is some of the. Now, this is the survey plan where you can see the Tooth Relic Square, and this is one entrance, and this is the east entrance, this is the west entrance, and this is the Habarana Batiklo Road, and Parakramabahu is over there, and you have this extension, and Siva Devala is here. Siva Devala number 1, because there are about 5 Siva Devalas or more in Polonnaruwa. Now, it was King Vijayabahu who made this square a sacred mound by constructing the Tooth Relic Shrine, and King Parakramabahu added several buildings including Tuparama. Probably it also housed Tooth Relic, and King Parakramabahu first built a special temple, Watadage, which would have been an earlier period stupa. Then King Nissanka Malla, he constructed a separate Tooth Relic shrine, Hatadage. Then we have some other buildings which we will now. Now this is probably the most significant building or the ruin in the Tooth Relic shrine, Watadage. As the name suggests, it's a circular house for a stupa, and it's of 2 levels, and you have rows of circles of stone columns and a stupa in the middle, and 4 statues of image houses of Lord Buddha in the sitting posture, facing the cardinal directions. And this is the plan. You can see the entrance porch, the 4 entrances facing the cardinal directions, the stupa, and the 4 pedestals for the statues. And this now I am showing the drawings done in 1992, pen and ink, measured to the finest details. And there were lots of conjectural drawings done for this building. I will show one based on some of the ideas Dr. Roland Silva made in 1990s. Now, the significant thing is this probably housed the Tooth Relic at one period. That's the Parakramabahu. But before that, it would have been a stupa. In Parakramabahu would have made it. Now, what I am saying is probably some of the writings and arguments of late Professor Nimaldi Silva. What he argues is it would have been used by the king Parakramabahu as his Tooth Relic shrine by constructing this circular roof, because the plan form was there with the stupa in the middle, probably a Pabbata Vihara of Anuradhapura period, this site, the whole site, and the stupa would have been here. And later, during, now this is a, this is a conjecture done by the students during this project, where you can see 2-tiered roof and the double slope roof for the middle, a section and a elevation. The basic, I think one of the arguments here is, if you look at the statues, the pedestal to keep the statue, in certain places it has been punched, it has been cut to accommodate the columns to support the roof. Now this is very, very uncommon, because even the pedestal to keep the statue is considered as a sacred object, the asanagara, and you don't expect a cut or a rebate there. So probably what would have happened, as explained by Professor Nimaldi Silva, is that the statues have come later, and the statues were there, and when the roof was done later, you have to cut the pedestal in certain places. Then we'll go to the other building. This is Thuparama, next building. Now this is the edge of the Watadage. This is a brick building. It has brick walls. Actually, this picture is taken in 1992, because if you go there today, you cannot take a picture like this, because it is covered with a temporary roof, a purage, for a renovation, which has been undertaken by the Central Cultural Fund with the assistance of the Ambassadors Fund, USA, I suppose. This is an important building, because this has the original 11th century roof intact, and we don't have original roofs of that old in any other place, because it's brick, it's not timber and tiles. So it has influences, South Indian influences, but it's an image house. You enter from this door facing east, you go in, and in the inner sign is below this space, and you come out from a side entrance or a service entrance. You can also climb up through a small flight of steps to the roof to that's the maintenance or service staircase. So entire building, the walls and the roof is out of brick and lime mortar, which they mastered during Polonnaruwa period, the technology. And you have lot of decorations, moldings, stucco work on the walls, external walls. Some show the architecture of that period, the buildings of that period. And we have two more buildings of this nature in Polonnaruwa, the Lanka Tilaka at Polonnaruwa and Tiwanka Pilimage. So in Polonnaruwa, the emphasis was not on stupa. In Anuradhapura, it was always the stupa was the biggest and was the dominating element. Polonnaruwa, though we have some big stupas like Rankot Vihara, Pabalu Vihara, Kiri Vihara, etc., they mastered the technology of lime, slime sand mortar and the brickwork to construct domical and vaulted roofs, and the image house became the focal point in the monasteries or in the architecture. So the galleries would have been painted, and lots of the quality or the in the interiors of the buildings. Now this is the plan. You enter. This is the pedestal, and you have the flight of steps to go up. Very thick brick walls, because to support the bending moments of the roof, you need these walls. But then there are windows to get light and the side entrance. So it's in the southwest area of the Daldamaluwa podium. Very thick walls, two halls, this one, and Antarala, a connection in between. Buddha statue was a brick statue. Yes, as I explained, lots of decorative work, pilasters, stucco work on the walls in panels. Now these are the elevations that you can see. This has some settlements, I think, because also the vehicles which run on highway or the main road creates vibrations on the ground. I think there was a proposal in 80s to divert the Habarana Batiklo road to the east of the inner city, to the east of the sacred city. So you don't go through the Tooth Relic Square and Parakramabahu, the road. Instead you go it almost in line with the rail line and connect to Kaduruvel town. Unfortunately, I think during the last 10 years or so, the road has been widened to a 4-lane road, and you see vehicles moving very fast and creating some vibration. But hopefully we'll see a conservation of this in near future. Now this is a Bodhigara, the building near Tuparama, which was a common building at that period. In fact, you have the Botri shrine in the middle, and Botri, and a shrine around it. So it's called Botri shrine or Bodhigara. And if you go to Samadhi statue site in Anuradhapura, you will see a Botri shrine of Abhayagiriya temple. Actually, Abhayagiriya had at least 3 Botri shrines, and that was one. The statue, what you see as Samadhi, is one of the statues, because if you look at very carefully, you will see a pit behind the statue and 3 other pedestals around it. So this is a Bodhigara, and you will see the entrance and the columns which supported the roof. So this would have been, center would have been open like a court, Botri going up, and around it you will have a roofed area for people to go and do ritualistic activities and all. This is actually, you can see the background which we have blurred, the Tuparama with this temporary roof. This is a recent photograph, 2024 photograph. This is a Bodhisattva image house. It's the Tooth Relic Square or the Dalada Maluwa. You know, the Bodhisattva or the Buddha to come is also worshipped in the Sinhala Buddhists, by Sinhala Buddhists. And I'm not very sure the conservation of these steps. They look some, probably not done very recently, maybe in 50s or 40s, because the levels I think differ, and probably an excavation will determine the exact levels. It has not been conserved recently, but you will see the statue with broken arms in the middle and the structure or the remains. This is the plan and the drawings. Now this probably is another very, very important building, or which many people appreciate. It's called Nissanka Malla, because it has this very peculiar columns, like lotus stems, and this should have been used as a place where King Nissanka Malla listened to the chantings of Pirit, and with there's a stupa or a dome structure in the middle. Probably the relic would have been kept there, and it's an open pavilion, and the roof would have been out of timber, and Pirit chanting ceremony with the attendance of the king would have happened in this place during the period. Now these are the drawings. You can see the elevations and the plans. This has been renovated, and some parts that you see in the photograph are not really out of stone. They are later done with cement and out of concrete, but following the same style. But these original columns, very unique. Then the image house towards the west. You can see the statue, the brick statue in the reclining posture, and the columns. Now, probably this would have been constructed by King Nissanka Malla, because he probably removed another image house to construct the Hatadage or his Tooth Relic Shrine. So this would have been constructed by King Nissanka Malla to replace the image house he removed or dismantled for the construction of Hatadage, the Tooth Relic Shrine, in the same premises. This is in ruin condition, so actually it's very difficult even to identify the statue in the reclining posture. Not very many people go and see it. Now this is the oldest building, the first building to come up during the Polonnaruwa period, after King Vijayabahu became the ruler. The Atadage, or the Tooth Relic Shrine of King Vijayabahu. This was constructed after a period of destruction, occupation of Cholas in the city, but it has followed the Sri Lankan architectural style, and there have been some conjectures done. This is a two-story building. In the ground floor, you will see this entrance. I will show the plan. So you enter from here, come to a lobby, and there's flight of steps to go up. And here you will see the statues or the image house. And when you go up, you will get the upper floor, and probably the tooth relic would have kept in this space at the upper level on a timber deck. On a timber deck. So it's an important building because it came during the after King Vijayabahu became the ruler, but it also has a very interesting inscription in Tamil language. It says the Velakara army or the South Indian soldiers had to protect. They were the security people for this Tooth Relic Shrine, and shows their power also to a certain extent. But it has very interesting decorations, columns. The brickwork is destroyed. Again, worth doing a conjecture. There is a conjecture if you go to the museum at Polonnaruwa, how it looked like. At the entrance also there's this drawing showing its original form. Then next to this we have the Hatadage, the Tooth Relic Shrine of King Nissanka Malla. King Nissanka Malla, as I explained, was a different type of king. He didn't want to occupy or use any of the buildings constructed by his predecessors. Even his palace, he didn't want to occupy the palace of Parakramabahu. So Tooth Relic Shrine also he constructed. So this is the fourth one in that same order, because Tuparama would have had Tooth Relic for a short period, probably, or was constructed for that purpose. Watadage, that's the Tooth Relic Shrine for King Parakramabahu. Atadage, which was used as the Tooth Relic Shrine by King Vijayabahu, and the Hatadage, that is the Tooth Relic Shrine of King Nissanka Malla. It's more or less the same plan form, but slightly bigger. Plan form of the Atadage, slightly bigger, but it also has a stone boundary wall on the periphery. On the periphery, again you go in a lobby, flight of steps to go up, ground floor inner chamber, and at the upper floor you will have the Tooth Relic at this place. Something similar to what you see in Kandy today. In Kandy today. So these are the drawings. You can see the preserved walls and the boundary wall, entrance. Then behind this you have a chapter house or a poege where the monks will meet once in fortnight and do the Vinaya Karma or practice the discipline text as stated in the Patimokkha Sutta. You have again something similar to the Nissankalata Mandapa, a column in the middle. So this is Hatadage, is behind it on the northern side. So this is the plan and the sections. Then we come to again a very different type of a monument, which is called Galpotha. It's a very large stone slab, about 26 feet long, 4.5 feet broad, and about 2 feet tall. And you have sharply cut letters about 1 inch in size in ruled lines, and originally these were filled with alloy, and early 80s there are pictures which shows at least 3 letters with this alloy parts, but now they are missing, and it describes about the works of King Nissanka Malla, and it also says the stone slab was shifted from Sagiriya or from Mihintale, the monolithic stone slab, this large slab. It was covered with a sheltered roof. Still you can see the columns. Now these are the sections, and the and also on the edges you have floral designs, sides and the edge. Then this is called Satmahal Prasada, again in the Tooth Relic Square, which is a stupa found in places like Southeast Asia, especially in Thailand, even today. It was the tradition, but here probably we know in Parakramabahu had a lot of connections with Southeast Asia, probably his downfall due to sending of some of the ship navy fleets to Southeast Asia and all, and so with these connections probably this would have constructed a solid structure like a step pyramid about 30 feet in height and 7 stories if you take the plinth and all. Then you can in the cavities in the recess you have statues of gods and bodhisattvas. So the plants of different levels, and you can climb. There's a flight of steps to climb to the first level. Now at the lower level of the Tooth Relic Shrine, you have this building which is identified or named as Shiva Devala number 1, because there are several Shiva Devalas or Hindu shrines in Polonnaruwa. Shiva Devala number 2 is conserved about a kilometer away from the Tooth Relic Square. This again a picture taken in 1993, because if you go there today, all these stones have been removed, stone blocks. It's been conserved now. It took long time. Actually, we were trying to publish this after the conservation, but it didn't happen during that period, so that's the reason for the delay. But it has lots of carvings, and the stones were fitted without any mortar. The granite slabs. Probably the building developed over several phases, several stages, so it has several layers of development. We have the Shivalinga in the middle. And expanded and rebuilt. You have the main entrance and the side entrance. And some of the bronze artifacts found in this site has been shifted to, are exhibited now at the museum in Colombo. And this is the platform you enter from the east, innermost shrine, and the side entrance or the exit, the main lobby. But now if you go there, you will see the layer below this also. In the book, even without that, I try to explain it. Now this is an interesting drawing which was done as a conjecture, as what I showed in the Watadage. Based on the evidence, you try to conject what was like. So this was a conjecture done again by the research students at that time, with the central dome or the sanctum below. and the front part is a stone building with a domical roof in the middle and maybe vaulted roofs or open courts at other levels. But if you conserve it probably it would be very attractive building at Polonnaruwa. So these are the buildings at the Tooth Relic Square, quadrangle or the Dalada Maluwa. So the Sudhival is at lower level. Now we go to the next area which is adjoining this. To the side of it we have the north side, we have to the southern side we have Parakramabahu area. Now actually the Tooth Relic Square is somewhere here. You have a gatehouse here and you come along this. You have the Parakramabahu Palace and the ancillary buildings. This is the road, Habarna Betiklo Road, Moat, Parakramabahu Council Chamber and other ancillary buildings, and the bathing pond or the Kumara Pokuna of the palace. So this is the gate, entry point from Dalada you enter through this gatehouse where you can even one can go through a chariot about 12 feet wide, and the ramparts are here, you can see, but you will probably have a gatehouse with soldiers and all. Probably a lockable wooden gates. This is the plan that, so you this is the road, the side buildings, ramparts of the palace complex. You have ramparts at the second layer also. Now this is Parakramabahu Palace, another very significant building in this area, where you can still see the 3-storied walls, and these slots were there to fix the timber beams to support the upper level roof floors. This is the front hall, which was burnt at one point. Still you will see the 800-year-old plaster, whitewashed with or lime washed with red color decorative lines, about 2-inch wide lines. That was a accepted tradition in the Polonnaruwa period. Sinaba, Sadiningam, which you will see in this building as well as at the Nissanka Malla area. But it says, the chronicle says it was 7 stories, probably the upper stories would have been timber. You will have the staircase, and it's in the chronicles it said it's the Vijayanta Prasada, and Chulavansa gives a vivid description about the interiors, where you have the niches, the lights through in these halls, and the decorations, paintings, all the descriptions are there, and several halls, large number of rooms, toilets, still one can identify. A plan, you can see this is the entrance area, the front hall, the inner hall, the ancillary rooms, and the side steps here to go up, and would have had other rooms at the upper level. And also Julavansa gives a description about the garden around this, where it says the garden was planted with flowers which gives smell, very pleasant smell in the night. So from the upper levels of the rooms you can smell these the flowers in the evenings. The Nandanuvina sections. Now this is the council chamber or the space where the cabinet of ministers and the king met, had discussions of King Parakramabahu. On the east of the Parakramabahu palace, you have two lower level podium and then climb up, very decorative stone sculpture, two moonstones, one here, one here. Unfortunately, if you look at photographs of these moonstones taken in 40s or 50s and compare them now, some of the very fine carvings of the animals are about to disappear, because in this particular site, the people do not remove their shoes because it's not a sacred site. Whereas when you go to Watadage and all, you at least remove shoes and walk on the moonstones. But here you walk with shoes and you see the damages. And on this you will see these elephant figures, motifs, lion figures, swans and all. Probably during the conservation, now if you read the Tulavansa, the Damadeniya king, his son, because after Polonnaruwa the kingdom was shifted to Damadeniya, he has come to Polonnaruwa and he writes a letter or sends a message to the father ruling at Damadeniya saying, Polonnaruwa is a very, very important city, nice city, I am going to renovate it, and when I renovate it, you can also have your second proper coronation here. And then he says, send me some resources. So he is giving some kind of recognition to his father, saying that if you send more resources, I will be able to renovate it so that you can also have a proper coronation like the old kings there. So we don't know what happened, because if you look at here, you will see some elephant, these carvings or the stucco work, the carvings. The conservation, then also we know that this was conserved in 1940s. And if you go to the other side of the Nissanka Malla area, you will see another council chamber with the same type of stone decorations. And probably Nissanka Malla was the first to remove this and take it there, because when he wanted to construct. Then we don't know whether the son of the Damadeniya king, who became the king later, again shifted them back. And at least you will see one elephant with 5 legs. So it would not have been a mistake of the Polonnaruwa period, a mistake during the latter period conservation. But it's a very important building, and what's very significant about this is it has, I will show you, it has 4 rows of columns, and king would have sat here and the ministers here on ground or in a small cushioned pillow, and probably there would have been a secondary exit here. During the conservation it has disappeared sometimes. So these are the 2 moonstones that I was referring. And if you look at the Magulmaduwa in Kandy, which is the council chamber of the Kandy, you will have the same plan form. Wider center space, 2 rows of column on either side, and a hip roof. And this is the plan form of the council chamber of King Nissanka Malla as well. And even in Kandy, you will see the same plan form. So it has been continued as the meeting place of the royalty, the architecture, the decorative columns, different levels, the Koravakgal, guardstones, moonstones, decorations. Now this is when you go out from the council chamber, you have the ramparts, and from the ramparts you go down about 20 feet below. You have the Kumara Pokuna, where you get the water from the canal of the Parakramabahu Samudra, and the pond, and the pavilion. It's called Sila Pokarni, meaning the stone pond. And yeah, you will still see the sockets bringing water, and probably a better conserved work. Now you have a flight of steps to go down, and the canal is here, coming from the Parakramabahu. Now we can go to the other side of the road, which is the Nissanka Malla area. Now these are the plans, sections of the Kumarapakuna. Now Nissanka Malla area, actually this is the road. Now Parakramabahu Palace is somewhere here. The Tooth Relic Square is somewhere here. And this is the Pleasure Gardens, depot arena of in Nissanka Malla. The Parakramabahu is here. And here you have the council chamber, the palace complex, a very unique building which is called mausoleum or probably a pavilion, and the pond. So you have these four important elements, and the information center of Polonnaruwa is somewhere here, newly constructed cultural triangle information center, which is a very good museum or information center for a visitor to go and understand the heritage of that period. So you have these four buildings, monuments. This is the palace. It is not as big as or glamorous as that of Parakramabahu, probably two-storied, because he didn't have a lot of resources, no longer time period. Brick walls, stone columns, the platform, and some would interpret this is also a meeting hall. Probably upper floor would have been the rooms, and ground floor would have been the meeting place. But this again is a very, very unique building. You can see it's not as decorative as that of Parakramabahu council chamber. But this is Nissanka Malla council chamber. Flight of steps to go up 2 levels. You have columns which are bigger, not decorative like in Parakramabahu, the council chamber, and the Parakramabahu is over here. So it would have been a very, very nice space to have a meeting with the cabinet overlooking the waterfront, water body. When you go in, what is important is actually you have these columns. Now you come up here, and here you have a figure of lion. It's not the throne, it's the place or symbol where the king would have sat in front, cross-legged, and the ministers would have sat along these columns in the different positions. The deputy king, the heir apparent, the prince, and you can see the figure of lion. This figure, actually once I think in the 50s, archaeology department decided, it was very well carved, decided to take it to Colombo Museum. So they had to drill a hole at the lower level to put a stone rod, shifted to Kadurila station through a rail, they got it to Colombo Fort and to museum. But after some time they decided, there was an argument that you should not keep artifacts out of the site. So the decision was to shift it back. So it went back. So the lion came to Colombo, and I think he was there for about few years. Now it has gone back. Here. The backdrop for the king. But what is important here is, in these columns, they have engraved the names of the ministers or the positions of in these columns who sat below this. Now, you have the backdrop of lion figure and the king. Then the heir apparent, the small throne, the Prince, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces like the Minister of Defense, Prime Minister, Finance Minister and the Cabinet Ministers, the Record Keeper, the Secretary, Regional Governance, maybe the Provincial Governance, District Governance, representatives to the business community. So for them, the business community was important. So if you look at the columns, the engravings, you can identify the composition of the cabinet of the Polonnaruwa period kings, or the king Nissanka Malla, probably it would have been the tradition. So in that sense, it was very, very important place. Then this is called mausoleum because it was a structure without any rooms. And when we went there and we started to measure, we tried to figure it out, and we agreed that it would have been used as a pavilion for king to sit, overlooking the Parakramabahu on one side, probably elephants fighting or bathing in the Parakramabahu so that they cannot do any harm because it's at the upper level. It's a royal observation pavilion. Then the last building that we are going to show, or the monument, is the Royal Pleasure Gardens. King Nissanka Malla was I think had a high sense of artistic appreciation because even his inscriptions are different. They are not written one line below the other. They go round. They are square, so they go round and round and round in the squarish form. So he had this high sense of doing things in a very artistic manner, but different to others. And here also you have this circular water body, a small pond and a bigger pond. And underground, so you can see the layout. You don't see the bigger pond. Here it's the bigger pond. Water coming from the Parakramabahu, different levels. So if you stand here, you can get a spout above you. Can have a wash body, or you can bath, have a shower. It's also very difficult to conject, but an important monument with high, I think, architectural and artistic value. This is just next to the Polonnaruwa rest house, where in 1954 the Queen Elizabeth stayed a night when she visited the island after, I think, 1 year after her coronation. So that's all what I have here, and would like to thank for giving me this opportunity. And out of this we have made a publication. We launched the book about a month back. Unfortunately, we couldn't do it. It was a joint publication authored with Professor Nimaldi Silva. We couldn't launch it before he passing away, which is very sad for me. But he showed the book. I had a look at the book before that. So we made this publication. Few copies will be available at the National Trust for those who want to purchase it. It's a publication of the University Center for Heritage and Cultural Studies. A3 size book with drawings, more of a collector's item. And we are trying to do some conjectural drawings for places like Watadage, Nissanka Mandapa, Parakramabahu Council Chamber, Nissanka Malla Council Chamber. Once Japanese university came here and did some conjectural drawings for these buildings, and you will see them if you go to the information center or the museum at Polonnaruwa even today, even some models. There could be some arguments about this, but it's I would say a very good attempt by this team of researchers from Japan. So that's all what I would say. These are the photographs of the young students in 1992 who did these measured drawings. Now they are, at that time they were 20 years old, now they are 55 years old, and we have some very high rank officers in the archaeology department, in the urban development authority, in the national planning department, and some high profile practicing architects. But I included there, yeah, this is a picture taken during one of the site visits with Professor Nimal de Silva, and our Vice Chancellor for GTF Silva at that time. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Chandrasekara. Absolutely fascinating. And I hope next year you will take the National Trust on a tour of Polonnaruwa so we can all actually visit these places. It's not the same until you understand the whole. We usually go and visit one or two of the sites, but we don't get the full picture as you showed us today. So we are very thankful to you for this. And if anybody wants a book, Professor Chandrasekara has brought a few books and he'll be ready to sign it for you. Does anybody have a question? Yes, Kavan.
Is the Independence Square, which is close by, also built on the same dimensions of these old Parak and the audience halls?
Yes, I think this Independence Square, what you see at Torrington Square, it was built by the Public Works Department after the independence. I think Prime Minister Kothawalo, the Minister Kothawalo wants to construct a monument to celebrate the independence, and probably it's a good idea to have a building like that. And he used the architecture of the Magul Maduwa at Kandy. It has a basement actually. I don't know how many of you have been there. It's a museum actually. If you go there, it's basically the influence from the architecture of the Magul Maduwa at Kandy, but done out of concrete, not the same material, not the timber, but one can look at the same plan form where you have these 4 rows of columns, creating a bigger space in the middle, the main space for meetings and all. And so it's a continuation of the same type of architecture or the same principle or the same concept from Polonnaruwa too. We don't know what was the council chambers in Anuradhapura look like because we don't have examples. We have one at Sigiriya, which is a different type. And this Polonnaruwa and Kandy, we see a connection, and what we see at Torrington Square is also a similar concept.
Professor, how many stories tall were some of these buildings? Could you
I
estimate?
think, yeah. Now, the stories, I think it's a bit of a tricky thing because the Chulavansa gives descriptions about the stories, 7 stories of the Parakrama, the palace and all. Probably you take even the plinth as one story, the plinth level, and probably the building would have been scaled down where the tallest part would have been smaller, like what you see at Sambodhi Vihara now at Gregory's Road. So the middle part would have been smaller, timber. So I think if you look at some of the drawings or the designs or the articles of Dr. Roland Silva, you will see the conjecture of Lower Mahaprasad. And I think he argued in the same lines, Parakramabahu Palace would have been a building of that nature, and these 3 stories would have been like that, but at the upper levels it would have been smaller, 7 stories. And Badasima Pasada, the chapter house of Alahana Pirivana, which we didn't discuss because it's not in the inner city or citadel, would have been 12 stories, as the Chulavansa or the Little Chronicle describes. But the main image houses are single story, chapter houses are single story. Sorry, council chamber as single story.
Thank you very much for the lecture, Chandrasekara. So, very interesting to see the kind of, not only the layouts, the details of the buildings. I want to just pose a question. If you compare Polonnaruwa with Anuradhapura, for example, do you feel the fact that we have more monuments and also more secular buildings preserved, is it only the fact of the historical, the length of time, or was there something different in the construction material or construction technology which made them preserve better?
Yeah, I agree with what architect Kiranti is trying to say, because if you go to Anuradhapura, what you see today is basically Buddhist monasteries. Except Sigiriya, which is outside Anuradhapura, you don't have even a palace to see in Anuradhapura, except in the inner city of Anuradhapura, where very few people will go, you have a palace, but it was like a circuit bungalow of King Vijayabahu. It was a Polonnaruwa period palace. Where you see the plasters, same designs, red lines and all. So, Anuradhapura we don't have secular buildings, true. Maybe except the Ranmasuvina and the pleasure gardens. So in Polonnaruwa we have a lot of palaces. We have also Hindu shrines, because there are the South Indian marriages. Marriages are also very, this is also very interesting. It was also invasions, but also there were marriages from South Indian kings, because because we know that at that time South India or the whole of India was not one kingdom. There were several kingdoms. So always you had this South Indian kings or the kingdoms trying to attack you. One of the safest way to handle that is, you can have an army, you marry your enemy's enemy, either the daughter or the sister. And the kings had this luxury of having several queens, so there's no problem. So you marry a South Indian queen, princess. So when you are in trouble, you can ask help from either from your brother-in-law or from your father-in-law to attack your enemy coming from South India. So then they would have come with lot of their relations, and we have this lot of Shiva, not Shiva Devalas necessarily, but the Hindu shrines, probably what is called Naipana Vihara would have been a Hindu shrine. In the northern gate also you have. So as you said, the technology is also, I think, has contributed for the preservation, because instead of the timber roofs, they started to construct these brick and the stone roofs. And Shiva Devala is preserved as the roof is to some extent. Podgulvehera, Tuparama, the roof is still there because they were not timber. But if you, I think, excavate Anuradhapura, you might see some of the royal architecture, which I don't think they consider as a priority now. You might see. Yeah, walls.
Did the wall lead to a different thickness of the walls, right, which made the walls preserve better? And
Yes.
probably been a reason, or I don't know. There may be
Maybe
lots
one
of
reason
others.
is, one reason is maybe they try to do load-bearing walls in many places instead of columns, like in Anuradhapura. And that, as you explained, maybe the walls are thicker. Then also the this technology of using lime sand mortar instead of clay mortar in early Anuradhapura has also preserved some of the walls in Polonnaruwa. So you see, though it's concentrated, not scattered in a large area like Anuradhapura, the monuments still the superstructure preserved in a better state than those at Anuradhapura. Yes.
Now, at the end of the Anuradhapura period, the Cholians destroyed the entire city. And Vijayabahu, after becoming the king of the country, he wanted to resurrect Anuradhapura. He went there and stayed for 3 years. And he realized that he couldn't made the kingdom again. That's why he came back to Polonnaruwa. So the Cholians destroyed the city in entirety. And then the Polonnaruwa was never destroyed by the Cholians, because none of the Sri Lankan king had Sri Lankan Buddhist wives. So all the kings from Vijayabahu to downward had wives from India.
They would have been beautiful like Hindi actresses, but more, I would, for me, the reason is more the military reason or the political. Yeah, Mahayana thing I try to explain the Pabbata Viharas where they considered the religion more important than the Buddha. That's what I said in the Anuradhapura period, not here. And the Bodhisattvas, there's the influence of Mahayanism. Mahayana and Vajrayana was there. No, even South, we had connections, not necessarily with only with India, but also with East Asia. Fahian came from China. He was a Mahayana monk. Stayed in Abhayagiriya for 2 years. So I think Abhayagiriya was more open to different viewpoints, whereas the Mahavihara in Anuradhapura was not that open. So that's one reason. The cooking would have happened in the outhouses. Even if you look at Parakramabahu Palace, you have a large number of foundations. Those were the outhouses. So, lighting, using the lamps with the oil lamps. I think in the recess on the walls there would have been spaces to keep these lamps, torches, etc.
So there was the royal palace, the audience chamber, and the Davada sort of
Yeah.
Marga, the chamber. So each successive king seems to have built their own thing.
At
Was-
least three of them.
At least 3 or 4, yes. So other than ego, was there any other sort of cultural reason that they went to that extent?
I think these three kings were different. No, because Vijayabahu anyway had to construct a Tooth Relic shrine because he had to establish it, and so that's I think fair enough. Then Parakramabahu also wanted to, I think, was a different type of king who wants to project his power, and he even tried to conquer the Southeast Asian countries. He had a fleet of navy, ships and all. So I think he also wanted to construct his, make a statement by himself. And the other one is Nissanka Malla, who also I think had a different type of attitude to this. But there were other kings who ruled from Polonnaruwa for shorter periods, and some queens, they would have used same buildings.
Kingship, they might have constructed their own temple of the truth.
I don't know how many of you remember in 1981 or 81 or so, then the Minister of, MP, Member of Parliament of Kotte, Anand Sisadialvis, made a suggestion saying that always the Tooth Relic Shrine was in the capital of the country, which is true. It went from Anuradhapura to Polonnaruwa to Dambadeniya to Yapahuwa to Kotte. He said, now we should have a Tooth Relic in Kotte. And some of them liked it, but the members of parliament from the Kandy, of the ruling party at that time, objected and stayed in Kandy, maybe for good. Huh? Maybe. Yeah.
You talked a little bit about the colors of Parakramabahu's palace, having white plaster with red
Red
patterns. For the Polonnaruwa inner city in general, what kind of colors would you have expected if someone were to walk in there? What would they see? The colors, if you can even talk about the smells and sounds, that will be quite interesting.
I think this white and red color, red bands was unique to Polonnaruwa period, because if you go to this what I call the circuit bungalow of Vijayabahu or the Vijayabahu Palace in Anuradhapura, you will still see that red lines in the white lime washed wall. So, and we are not very sure, we don't have examples of Anuradhapura period, so we cannot guess, but it would have been the order or the preferred design for especially for the secular buildings of Polonnaruwa, because you see in the mausoleum or this podium platform also the same design. But for the religious buildings, it's difficult to say. Most of the stupas would have been whitewashed, and other buildings would have been fair-faced like the Siva Devala, because stone may be plastered. But the Tuparama and all, I'm not very sure whether they had lot of colors, maybe shades, because also you have to use the natural colors from the earth or from the trees. So even
And
today, if you look at the Candian period buildings, external surfaces are whitewashed.
And would the architects have been indigenous to Sri Lanka, or would they have been South Indian architects? And can we look at South Indian buildings to guess what the colors would have been like?
Maybe, but also we don't have very many South Indian buildings of that period in South India still. Now they have also been renovated or refurbished. So there would have been a lot of South Indian influence, especially for the Siva Devala, definitely. But also these three buildings, or the brick vaulted door domical image houses, Tuparama, Lankatilaka, Tivanka, and Podgulvera to some extent, you will see this influence of the masonry walls and the masonry roof. But I don't think they were painted in a very colorful manner. Interiors, yes, because you will have this Jataka stories and the murals. Nalanda Gadiga is in the Mathare district, which is considered as the center of the island, which was relocated like Abu Simbel with the construction of the Nalanda reservoir in Mahavali. Also has followed some South Indian architectural Pallava, no? 7 centuries. So because those days these connections would have been there, and there would have been influences. But also you see independent development like the Atadage, Tooth Relic Square, they are very the Sri Lankan architectural style. Yeah, but the issue is this. The issue is, but we are not sure when was the Watadage constructed at Madirigiri. Probably dates to Polonnaruwa, because Tiriyaya, I think, because he visited that place, which is north of Trincomalee. The Watadage is probably a Polonnaruwa period one. But very many people consider it as the first stupa of the country constructed prior to introduction of Buddhism in the island by these two traders. It's on the very close to the sea beach. It's also a Watadage.
Professor, I have another question. We spoke about the lightings, so now you mentioned that there would have been like lamps.
Yeah.
So if there were like oil lamps, I'm sure there would be like discoloration or soot on the
Truth on the walls.
Yeah, yeah. Have you experienced that? Have you seen
No,
that?
now, no, because now we don't see, but there would have been protections of different types, no? Metal sheet, so I'm not very sure, but they would have been lit. One need to say, if you want to get an idea of the interior, I would recommend to you read the Chulavansa. Chulavansa gives a very vivid description about the palace of Parakramabahu. Maybe exaggerated, gardens, but it gives some kind of a interesting description about the interiors. It says decorated with gems, pearls, etc., etc. But maybe you will have few of them.
And one other thing is that you mentioned Parakramabahu had an army and a navy. So like in Bangkok, there is a temple called Ayutthaya, and in that temple they mentioned that they were having, I guess there was some strife in the southern part of Thailand, and the king of Lanka sent an army, and they were able to, repulse the attack, and so it's actually stated there. And another observation that I saw was in the south of Thailand, the people are a lot darker, like unlike in Bangkok, they are quite fair. So I'm wondering whether some of our soldiers they stayed over, or whether they kind of like intermarried or whatever it is, because you can see quite distinctly the people are not.
Yes, Ayutthaya has this connection with Lanka, near the river. I think have been there. That's why probably we see this Satmahal Prasad, step pyramid, which is common in Thailand. So there would have been a lot of connections between Siam, no, at that time, or Ramanya. Yeah. Malaswa. This is from Thailand. Ah, yes, East Asian, yes, yes. So those days there would have been a lot of connections, but one need to, I think, do a proper study. We don't see that in the present scholarly works. Yes.
You agree that it may be the oldest temple in Sri Lanka?
Not scientifically. If you do a scientific study, only you can prove it. But I think because this story of two traders, Tapassu Balluka, enshrined in the hair relics of Lord Buddha, and there were some references even in Myanmar to this story. And about 2 years back, or 3 were not say, I think during COVID time, one of our students, Mandaramu Chandananda Tero, who worked at the Cultural Triangle, did a very extensive survey of Tiriyaya for Cultural Triangle. And he said, if you do a proper study and excavation and exploration, that you will get evidence probably to see the connection which goes beyond Anuradhapura period or the early Anuradhapura period. Now he is studying in Varanasi for his PhD, Benares, because it was still in the jungles, because it's a vast area. What you see is Tiriyaya shrine, but it's a vast area, so it would have been developed over a long period of time, but not what you see as the stupa. It would have been the original location, because this Watadage would have come later. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Professor, and also for fielding so many questions. I think everybody has a lot of interest. So I do hope you'll take us on a tour of Polonnaruwa sometime.
Yeah, I think we should one day go to Manavadu.
And
Because
Professor Manavadu is also here, one of our trustees.
One can see lots of things within 2 days, because if you go to Anuradhapura, it's scattered. Whereas in Polonnaruwa, it's more compact and concentrated, and I think maybe the end of this year or next year we can do 2 days.
Thank you, and please join us for refreshments outside. My